Welcome into the Bite Meat podcast. I am John Lopez and really appreciate you guys subscribing. So many people across the country who have joined us here on the Bite Meat podcast. It has really taken off. We're going on about a year and a half now of doing this, and we never run out of things to talk about, which is saying a lot about the barbecue industry, the meat industry, of course, all the great pitmasters that have joined us. And we'll get to that in a little bit with our guest today, my guest today, because this is one that I've been looking forward to because foremost, we're talking with some Aggies. We're talking with some Aggies, and I'm going to talk with Ray Riley, visiting lecturer at Texas A&M University, Department of Agriculture, has been managing the Rosenthal Meat Center for a while, and Dr. Jeff Savell, who is the Dean of A&M Ag&Life and the Vice Chancellor. And I want to thank you guys both for joining us, but let me just kind of set it up for a little bit here. One of the other reasons that I've been excited about this, not just because it's Aggies, not everybody listens to us, are Aggies, of course, and we'll forgive them for that. But it's Camp Brisket, which is over the last year and a half that we've been doing this podcast. I've talked to Doug Scheiding, who is a great world champion pitmaster. He's mentioned that he went to Camp Brisket. I talked to the Janice Smella from Canada. She's a champion up in the Canadian area in the northwest of the United States. She's joined us on the podcast. She mentioned Camp Brisket, and I've been familiar with it peripherally, but not really getting the nuts and bolts of it, so to speak, into the meat of the topic, if I want to use a bad pun. But let's get into that. And I'm going to start with Dr. Savell, who's just joining us here on the Bite Meat podcast. And of course, Ray Riley as well into the nuts and bolts. But first of all, Dr. Savell, Jeff, if you allow me to call you that, it's a lot easier. I was stumbling over doctor, but this has been a phenomenon. And I want to talk about the phenomenon first. We have some of the greatest pitmasters that I know that have been on this show, that have been talking about this. What about the phenomenon of Camp Brisket do you think really resonates with people before we get into the history, et cetera?
Well, I think there's a couple things, and you have to remember how all this progressed because Camp Brisket came out of barbecue summer camp. And so, it took off. We started that in 2011 with Foodways Texas as one of our, things. They needed some workshop type things, and we were already doing our freshman class, Texas barbecue. Mm-hmm. And so we said, well, we've got a lot of things we can talk about. So we started that. And then about 2 years, it took off so much. We said, well, let's do something. We'll do winter camp. We'll do like barbecue winter camp. Well, what would you do? Well, we're already doing, pulled pork and briskets and ribs and all kinds of things at the summer camp. Well, you can't just do the same thing and just call that winter camp. Mm-hmm. And then the idea was, well, what's the hardest thing to do? The hardest thing to do is brisket. And I think that's why the top barbecue places in the Texas country, whatever it is, you can't do brisket. You're not in top. I mean, it's like, I know you do sports. I don't know if you can't hit a home run, you can't play. I don't know what it is, but there's something like that, that you can have all these other skills. Everybody can do pulled pork.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do brisket. Mm-hmm. And those that do, I mean, they're celebrated, articles written about them. There's all kinds of things that happen that works out good. And so we started that with the thought that we just really focus on brisket. And you say, how do you have a 2-day camp that just deals with brisket? Well, we do. And, we've concentrated on things that are the questions, of the grade. Does grade matter? And I think that obviously grade does matter, based on everything we've seen. And I think all the top barbecue places in the country, well, I should say, at least in Texas, they use prime or top choice. They're using something that's a top quality in that. We look at different smokes. There's probably post oak in Texas is probably used more than anything else, but we evaluate the different smokes that we have and just do that as one. And then we have hi, Jackie. So Jackie just walked in over there. And then we do, I should have shut the door on that. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Get out. And then we And then we've done a wrapped and unwrapped because that's always a question, and just kind of demonstrate that. And so those are some of the big questions. Then we build the class around that. Talk about the different grades. So we give everybody a lot about grades, talk about different smokes, smoke panel. And then I think one of the wonderful things we do has nothing to do with brisket. We have a life as a pitmaster, kind of this last thing. And when Rob Walsh, we were working with him when Rob was still living in the United States. He kind of started that just to, having a couple of people, which would have been like Aaron Franklin and Justin Forton at Pecan Lodge and some of those guys, just asking them, kind of basics about their, how they got in the business, what they do. And I enjoy that a lot. I usually get to moderate that and just let the guys talk about how they got into these businesses. And I love when John Brotherton made a comment one time. So I gave up a 40-hour week job so I could have an 80-hour week job.
Yeah, and that's usually the story.
And I think that just tells you that the people that do this, they're so dedicated to this, and they come from different walks of life. So let me go back to what makes Camp Brisket so special. When Ray and I and Davey work on this, we're not barbecue experts by any means. We know a lot about meat. We've spent our whole life around meat. So we know about grade, cuts, tenderness, inspection. We know all those kinds of things like that. And that's been kind of a missing component to a lot of the people. That's still a mystery to people. They just don't understand where these cuts come from, why some are tender, why they're tough. What's packaging, what's, all these things. And that's what we've spent our whole career working on. And so I think that we've been able to provide that kind of information to participants. The pitmasters have come in and they've added their own thing about, what kind of wood they might use, or if they're using offset, whatever it may be. I mean, we talk about and I think it's been a good mixture of both. We've learned a lot from the pitmasters. I hope the pitmasters have learned a lot from us. Then I think the participants have just enjoyed being with us. We don't try to treat anybody like we know a whole lot more than what they do. And we get people from all kinds of walks of life that come in. And, I think this whole barbecue world, and that's what we tell our freshmen in the class Ray and I teach, you're really building community. You come for the food, but you stay for the community. And I think that's what we have people when they come to these camps. We go like, you're not going to come away with this magic temperature and do you wrap or don't wrap and all that stuff. Those are elusive. It's the fact that you come out of there like feeling like you bonded, and the fact that people can come and hang out. We've had Miss Tootsie come over and help out, be on the panels and those guys. I mean, that's rock star. I mean, those are legendary people. And you get a chance just to visit and hang with them. It's like it's like a fantasy, or not a fantasy, like
fantasy camp.
Fantasy camp, and get to hang out with people and do those things and see these celebrities. And that's kind of what they are. And so
it's
I spent more time on that than I should have. Ray probably should answer.
No. Listen, I told you guys 35 minutes, but I barbecue every week, and this is fascinating stuff. And it resonates, I'm sure, with a lot of our listeners. I'm remiss, though, if I don't mention you referenced him, Davey Griffin, professor of meats, professor and meat specialist at the Ag&Life Extension Services. Well, you three guys are at the core of it, and if for anybody wondering, they call them the Three Brisketeers, which is about as awesome a name as you can get for guys. But Ray, he covered a couple of things there that I want you to elaborate on. First with Camp Brisket, he mentioned, the participants. He mentioned, the meat, and that is, your specialty over at the Rosenthal Center, which I've spent a lot of time perusing over the years myself as a class of '84, and going to tailgates and getting stuff there, etc. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not impossible, but this is a very popular camp. I know our listeners are already thinking, well, I want to be a part of that. How can I be a part of that?
First thing they need to do is join Foodways Texas. Foodways Texas handles all the membership and registration and all signing up for that. They handle that part, and then we pretty much handle the camp of having the product available and the cookers and the smoke and all of that. We kind of take care of the education part. They take care of the registration. So first of all, I have to join Foodways Texas, and I'm not exactly sure how much that membership is. Jeff, do you know what it
No,
costs?
it's not much. It's 75, 80 bucks, 100
Yeah.
bucks. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's not much on that.
But it is interesting. The other thing he mentioned is, some of these names, that have, a lot of them have been on this podcast, Aaron Franklin and all these others. The gist of the camp, if you could elaborate on that, Ray, when it comes to the meat part, and that we've had so many people, the great pitmasters, say it starts right there. What is the gist of what you're telling people from and we'll stay with brisket. What are you telling people? What to look for? What to look on the label? Sometimes some of these briskets are labeled prime and they're actually choice, and vice versa, etc.
We do talk to them about the USDA quality grades. Quality grades predict palatability, and we know that the higher the quality grade, the greater the expectation is as far as palatability. We talk about prime being the highest quality, and you would expect the greatest eating experience from that with the least amount of variation. And then we get into choice, and choice is certainly acceptable. And then we also talk about select, which select is acceptable. It doesn't have the quality that you would find in choice and prime. Might have greater variation with the select grade. We also talk about the upper choice, which is a lot of the pitmasters are using today, trying to get that special product. And
the Wagyus and
the Wagyu. Now, the one thing I'll say about Wagyu, the Wagyu is a breed of cattle, and we have harvested Wagyu cattle at the Roosevelt Center. And just because they're Wagyu doesn't mean it's going to be this ultimate prime grade. So I would warn consumers about that. Just because it's does not mean that you're going to have the greatest eating experience. Wagyu does have a superior ability to deposit marbling, and if those are fed out right, they will deposit a lot of marbling. So really have to be careful on that. So we talk to them about grades. We also talk to them about looking on the package, and you won't find it on all the packages, but most of the vacuum packaged briskets will actually have the USDA seal on there indicating the quality grade. And then we also talk to them about food safety, meat inspection, and the inspection stamp.
Okay, so Jeff, the other thing about brisket, even the best cuts, the prime, et cetera, and I think this is what's fascinating and what is difficult about smoking a brisket. Maybe this is where, some of the pitmasters that join you come in. Not a single one is like the next. They're all different, and it tends to be a feel thing, a vision, what you're looking at. Internal temperature can sometimes even be a little bit inexact. Is that one of the biggest questions and one of the biggest lessons that you guys put out there?
Well, let's go back and think about it. Having each animal has obviously two briskets, left and right. I probably shouldn't live with that, but anyway, just like people are different, animals are different. And I think that's one of the things that these are biological entities. They do vary breed to breed, within breed, how long they've been fed, how old they are. I mean, there's all these factors that come in. I was talking about grade. Grade does help to narrow some of this down because it's based on the marbling at the ribeye, which is not the same marbling that you'd have at the brisket. but it's an indicator of it. And that is one that we do see more marbling than the brisket, if it does have more marbling than the ribeye. And, so it is related. It's just not perfectly related, just like you would get a tenderloin from a prime that may not look like it's prime, but yet it came from a prime carcass that was graded at that. And so, we see variation in size, weights. There's all but that's just, again, like people, there's a lot of differences that you have there. And so I think the challenge is, as we talk to the pitmasters that cook, hundreds of these a day or whatever they eat, they're faced with uniformity and size and shape and such. And so, we talked to one person who had this, they loved the particular brand they had, but they were getting this tremendous variation in weight. So you might have a brisket that was, 12 pounds, and then there was brisket that was 24 pounds. Well, that's twice as heavy, and you're trying to manage that. And they eventually moved to another, source that had at least a little bit more narrow within that. So I think that's, again, one of the, how do you manage those things? How do you do? I loved, talking to, listening to Aaron Franklin before, and him talking about how he manages different things. And he was talking about one time checking the temperature of the pit like every 10 minutes. I mean, there was some kind of crazy deal he was doing. And I'm going, I don't know if that matters, but what matters is somebody that would pay that kind of attention to the pit will pay that kind of attention to everything else. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what, and I saw something the other day that he had where they were talking about laying out, the tray, because remember, we eat with our eyes first, or if it's not Instagram, perfect, you don't eat it, whatever it may be. And somebody asked him about how do you, put food on the tray, because everybody's going to take a picture of it. And he had this elaborate layout. I mean, I didn't think about it. I just throw stuff on something. And he was talking about, well, I got to put this over here, something over there. There's all kinds of things that are going on. And I thought that was interesting, that, again, that kind of particular attention makes all the difference in the world. And I think that's why people like him, sometimes it's attention.
Oh, it's the little attention detail. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Ray. How many people, if you had to put a number, have gone through since you've been doing this?
Oh, wow. So 2011, that's 14 years. We had some that we kind of missed in COVID, but then we kind of doubled up. So is that 1,400, 1,500?
Isn't that something?
Something like that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Which leads to the question for you, Jeff, as the Dean of Ag&Life and the Vice Chancellor. What does Texas A&M get out of this?
Well, if you look at it, we're a land grant university and have been here, since 1876. I'm telling you things about some of these. And the land grant means that you concentrate on the teaching, research, and outreach. And our outreach from us on the Ag&Life side is the Texas A&M Ag&Life Extension Service. So that's the county agent network out, all the extension specialists, like you talked about, Davey being one of those. So I think in our DNA and our culture is we want to share knowledge, not just have knowledge to try to train 18 to 22-year-old students that come, and we get them all the time. They come in and leave and do those things. Our mission is also to work with the public. And I think these educational programs are something that we've enjoyed doing and do all kinds of different things and different commodities and different, our beef cattle short course has 1,500, 2,000 people that come every year, and they get to eat prime rib.
How about that?
I mean, we'll talk more about the prime rib than about the educational program. It's a special kind of a thing. So, and from a monetary, we do split proceeds after the expenses with Foodways Texas. But I had somebody one time made a comment, because again, we've now moved to a lottery system to get people in. Because the last time we did it online, it sold out in 10 seconds.
Oh my goodness!
Imagine the frustration people had trying to, get in and do those things. And so we now have lottery. Well, we had one of our colleagues that made a comment and says, why don't you just charge more? And I think it's still like $500 or something to come on there. And people would gladly pay, whatever. We've had people, there's been some of these have been used in charity auctions, scholarship auctions, and people have paid $1,500, $2,000. I mean, there's been all kinds of things because of the uniqueness. But somebody said, well, why don't you just charge more? If you got that demand, that sounds like a business. Okay, if you got so many people want to come at 500, why don't you go to 1,000, 1,500? And my comment to that was, if you price it to where only well-to-do people come, they will then treat it just like, well, I'm here to be serviced, and I want to expect your best, whatever. And one of our best things we had one time, and one of the camps, I don't remember which one, doesn't matter on that. We had a young couple who were on their honeymoon. And they came to the camp.
How about that?
And they had a great time. And we got these wonderful notes back from them that they had spent that time. Now, if you had decided to price this like it's some premier deluxe kind of thing, you would have missed out on that. But what a great opportunity we had to have a young couple who on their honeymoon decided to come to one of the camps.
That's
amazing.
I
just think that's a great story with it.
And Ray, he mentioned that story. I got to believe there's some success stories, and not to put you on the spot, but maybe something that comes to mind of guys like a younger me. I've been barbecuing since I was at A&M, and I was the designated guy cooking briskets and chickens and everything at tailgates even back then. Let's say I did the camp back then, and then all of a sudden, you know what? I have the bug. But I want to go all in. I want to open my own food truck or restaurant or get into the business. I got to believe you get a lot of that too, don't you?
We have had some, and I can't think of the gentleman's name, but he was out of Austin, and he was showing up to every activity that we were participating in, actually as a volunteer, helping out. The next thing I know, him and his son's got a food truck and is selling briskets. Being a pit master is not easy. It's something that you've got to love to do. You've got special product. It takes special time, special care to make that. Not every day do you hit a home run. There's days that it just didn't happen. You dozed off and the pit got too hot or something like that. So, I think they're looking for more information. What can I do to improve my game? And we hear back from a lot of people who will, after attending our camp, will then go to some cook-off, some barbecue competition, and we'll win. And they'll usually send us a little note or something about that.
And it's 2 days?
2 days.
2 days.
2 days.
All day Friday and most of the days Saturday. That will usually by the time 5 o'clock in the evening or 6 o'clock people are leaving. One other thing that's kind of unique to Camp Brisket, Homer Robertson, who is now retired firefighter. He was within the leadership at Fort Worth Fire Department. Had as a hobby, but is also something he was really good at, was chuck wagon cooking. In fact, he's been named world champion chuck wagon cooker, whatever you want to call it, wagoneer, whatever it may be, several times. And we taught his son in our freshman class one time, and he came to our program, and Homer says, well, I'd like to bring my chuck wagon down and set it up, do something. Well, he did for the students. And then for some reason, he decided to do that for Camp Brisket. And here you've got something that has nothing to do with brisket. But you talk about having this wonderful thing that you've got this, historic chuck wagon. He's doing, in the morning, he's not cooking anything on brisket. Brisket's been handled by the pitmasters. But, he'll cook beans, he'll cook, in the morning, biscuits, gravy, all kinds of stuff. And then for the lunch on Saturday, where we have another serving of briskets. They'll do like all the sides for that, and then they'll load up the wagon and go. But you having a chance to have somebody go out. Imagine somebody coming from out of state and they come out and see this and hear about the trail rides. And he always calls that was the original food truck.
Yeah.
All those things. And, think about we always tell students, Texas benefited because it was a beef state. After the Civil War, we had all the cattle down here. We not say we didn't have cotton, but we weren't dependent on cotton like you had like over in Mississippi and Alabama, where it just devastated them after the Civil War. Well, the cattle weren't worth much here, but they're worth much more north. And that's where all the cattle trails went up there, and they had to have a way to feed them. And so obviously the chuck wagon. And so I just think that's one of those kind of unique things. Like, what do you do? Well, I went down there and learned about chuck wagon cooking, or learned about how, somebody doing Dutch oven. And so what's it do with brisket? It doesn't.
It kind of does. It kind of does.
Yeah. But it's that community of people that have come together, and say we've met so many people of different walks of life that you'll see in things. Back to what Ray said, back on this thing, we have had people that, they're the backyard person and they decide they want to move into that. And then they might then do a little catering, and they start off a little in that. And then they kind of do a pop up, and then they kind of get in, and then they finally get to maybe bricks and mortar. You can't do that with like steaks. You can't do that with hamburgers or Mexican food or whatever. I mean, you might have a food truck with some of that. But I mean, if you're trying to do this your investment is you got to have bricks and mortar almost from the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a slower path to that. And not say everybody ought to go do that, but that's how some of them have got started.
That's a really good point.
An example of Jack Timmons is up in the Seattle, Washington area. Jack came through these programs. He's an Aggie, but he spent time at like Microsoft and places. So he's an engineer, but he did that same thing. He had this knack, and he started off with kind of this little pop-up little thing. And then the next thing you know, I was up in Seattle a couple years ago. He's got like 7 restaurants up in Seattle. I mean, he's expanded. He's got all kinds of things. And a lot of that, he, kind of learned, not everything he does, but he was just a student. And sometimes you got to be a good student. You have to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
There it is. What I loved is he bought a pit in Houston, and he wanted to bring it by College Station, and he brought it over by Rosenthal Center and says, well, what do you know? I want y'all to bless it. And I said, well, I know down in New Orleans and down in Louisiana, they'll bless the shrimp boats before they go out. So I did a blessing. I don't know if it was an official religious deal, but I kind of said a blessing over it, hope that it would bring great food to the Pacific Northwest. Wished him the best, and he drove it out from Texas to Washington. And
that is awesome. That is awesome.
That's kind of one of our stories we had. But the people we have met in all walks of life have been so good. I think the other thing on barbecue that's good, and I think especially on the camps, going back to whatever the rate is on that, there are people that come that are, I'd say just kind of regular folks, early career, whatever it may be. You got a lot of retirees, you got stuff. We got probably people have been there that are millionaires. We may not know. We got people that are just, just daytime work. I mean, barbecue, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
This thing levels out. And it's like, if you can do this, and you enjoy food, I don't think there's a big social class like there might be in other things. I mean,
no, absolutely. You can go to the highest end neighborhood or the city park on a Saturday, and the people are doing the same thing. It's pretty amazing. Ray, let me ask you about this. I've got to believe that at some point, if not, they've already followed through with it. Other universities are seeing the success of Camp Brisket, and they're going, "Hey guys, how you doing that? Has it expanded into another sort of realm in education?"
Yeah, it has. I know there's other universities. I know that Ohio State had sent some people down to see what we were doing. I think Texas Tech has something similar. And is it North Dakota?
Well, the first one that came down and really participated in everything was North Carolina State.
Yeah.
And they came down and they've modeled theirs more after the 4-H. So they're they're doing that more for 4-H, and we just haven't done within our program and such. And then North Dakota State, they do a program where they go out. They've got like a big trailer loaded with stuff. It's kind of a grilling, a little bit of smoking, and they take it to the people. And it may be a 4-hour type thing. So they'll show them, they'll rotate around, and it's a really great program they've got. And then they'll do the things where they'll demonstrate grilling, selection of meat, seasoning and such, feed everybody and load it up and take off and go on that. So that's it. And I think Texas Tech is doing more. They're doing more of a kind of a grilling type thing, competition. So they do some education things, and then have some kind of grilling thing that people can do. So again, it's a great opportunity for people to come through and learn, and because of that experience. I noticed online that there's a lot of the pitmasters are doing some of these little programs. They'll do, might be an evening, you can go over, it snows and spend the night with them. I'm not about to go spend the night with anybody. And now you're kind of participating, or you're watching and doing those things. So it's almost like, is there competition what you're doing? Well, we can't service everybody that wants to be serviced.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So great influence.
And so it's been nice that others have done that. And you'd think with the availability of written material online, YouTube, such, but we'll get people in and they'll say, well, I've watched every YouTube video on something. I've done this. There's still something magic about being in community and being together with people to learn and fellowship. All those things, I think, come into play. And I think that's the magic of
I believe we had, I think it was the CEO of the Big Green Egg. It might have been someone else. He came on our podcast and he said, you're never alone when you're with a fire. And I thought that was profound. Ray, I know I'm going to go a little long here. I don't want to keep you guys too much, but we got to answer some questions here now. A little mini camp brisket, mini clinic, if you will, to get a teaser for people to maybe become a part of this, so you guys can go back and forth on it. But I want to start with you, Ray, because I really want you to explain the Rosenthal Center, because it is unique by its. Even if there was no camp brisket, I can walk in there and it's quality. It's obviously done the right way. Tell our listeners about what they can expect at the Rosenthal Center.
Well, the Rosenthal Center is we're a land grant university. So the purpose of the Rosenthal Center is to teach, do research, and do outreach programs or extension programs. In our teaching program and research and these extension activities, we actually harvest beef, lamb, and pork, a few goats. And then the sales area itself is really just a byproduct of our teaching, research, and extension activities. By the sale of these meat products that we generate, well, that helps compensate for the cost of the animals, the packaging material, the labor, and all of those type things. So it's one of the best unknown secrets on
it really
campus.
Is. It really is.
We're located on the West Campus, north of Reed Arena. We're a one-story light tan brick building at the north end of lot 74.
You can just walk in, and as I have multiple occasions, and it's quality stuff, man.
Well, thank you.
It is high quality stuff. All right, before I let you go, let's do some. I know you guys aren't Aaron Franklin or Doug Scheiding or all these guys, but you've been around a lot of great Tootsie, all these other ones. Let's give our listeners some Texas A&M University Camp Brisket takeaways, if you will. Not holding you to it, but takeaways, if you will. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to start with Jeff on this one. Fat up or fat down? Oh, you're on mute. Let me get you off of mute here. Hold on. No, It's just not. It is. You might have muted yourself. There you go. You're good now. Nope. Whatever you did, do that again. I can edit this part out. I heard you for a second. Nope. Let's see. You might have muted yourself. Maybe the cat scraped off the microphone there or something. There you go.
Well,
no, I thought I heard you.
He must have a shark there. That's the reason it was sounding scratchy.
I'll eliminate this. So no. All right. Well, I'll go with you first then, Ray, and while he's working that out. Fat up or fat down?
It depends on where your heat's coming from. So if the heat's down below coming up, then the thought is you'd have the fat down as protection. If the heat is coming from above, then you have the fat to the top.
And a regular old smoker, you probably want it down anyway, right? Just so you can get the
Most
smoke on the meat.
if you're talking about an offset, the way the heat flows, yes, you'd have the fat up on those.
All right. Next question. I got like 5 or 6 of these while Jeff is working on his thing. How much seasoning? And what does it do?
How much seasoning? We use about a third of a cup per brisket, and we like using equal volume of coarse black pepper and kosher salt.
Keep it simple.
So Jeff, since we can't hear you, if I say something wrong,
give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Now can you hear me?
There we go.
Yes.
We got you. All right. How much seasoning and fat up or fat down?
Well, again, I think Ray addressed that. I think what happened, this switched to my phone. That might be why you were hearing scratching.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Again, I think wherever the heat is probably where you need to. So probably most of them are fat up, but I think that's because of the offsets going across there. Seasoning, here's what we tell everybody, tell our freshmen is this: seasoning should complement, not cover up.
You want the meat.
You need to complement the product. But if all you ever do is eat something and all you do is taste the seasonings, you probably have too much. And the nice thing about briskets, it's pretty easy to have a simple salt and pepper one that is about right. And again, most time you've got something on the surface and you got a big cut there that it works out. But
yeah. All right, Jeff, low and slow or hot and fast?
I think we're low and slow, folks. Maybe it's our age. I don't know what that is, but I think the hot and fast. I mean, there are people do it and they do well with it, but I think that it's just a challenge then whenever you do that you really got to manage everything. So I think that I think for most home folks, the low and slow work well because you can set something. Let's say it's 250 degrees, whatever it may be, and just know it's going to take you some time. And not be impatient. That's the problem is patience in all this that works out. And I think the other thing is
have been a game changer.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing you have here is you got a big old cut and it takes a long time to get the internal temperature right. So if you get it too hot on the outside, you get the outside more done than what the inside is. So that's why that slower process, I think, works best for everybody.
Ray, wrap or no wrap, foil or peach paper?
Wrap and use peach paper.
Yeah, me too. You guys are preaching to the choir. You have any thoughts on that, Jeff?
No, same thing. I think the issue, the challenge, maybe we should say challenge with aluminum foil is it is such a good barrier on moisture. You can really steam the product. And yet we talk about that being the roast beefy kind of a flavor. And there's no problem with roast beef. I love roast beef, but probably not for briskets.
Not a brisket.
Now, again, a place like Snow's uses, aluminum foil and they're great. So, but I think for the most part, I think the peach paper becomes the perfect way of getting some protection, some way to kind of keep some of the moisture in, but also let some of it out so you don't get the steam process in there.
Yeah. All right. I want you both to answer both of these last two that I've got you. What's the Jeff? I'll start with you. What's the biggest myth out there when it comes to brisket that maybe you guys have busted?
That left side is better than the right side, or the right side's better than the left side, whatever that one was. Because it was whichever one the cow got up on, or whatever. Absolutely. You'd be amazed at how many people have come up on
this
on
left
that.
side or right side. What does it matter? What does it matter?
Most of them can figure out which side it was anyway. I have trouble doing that.
Yeah.
What's the other thing they say? If you lay it over your hand, if it bends or whatever, it's supposed to be more tender.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
When you're picking the meat, I just got to look.
You'll see a lot of
marbling. It's marbling is what you're looking
marbling.
for.
Well, and you'll see people. I've been in grocery stores. I mean, they're over there bending all these things and such like that. And that's probably more of a reflection of how lean it is. Yeah. And if you got a prime brisket, if you can get that folded, you're doing great, because there's so much fat on that.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Do you ever get old school types? Maybe it's not even old school. Maybe it's just people that are headstrong. That kind of huff and puff about some of the science that you guys share, about briskets and meat?
Well, I think short answer is yes. Now, if I have good examples, I'll do one that it's not brisket, but let me come back in and do that one. And it deals with barbecue summer camp when we have the poultry folks there, and somebody will bring up something about eggs. Well, brown eggs are better than something. And our poultry guy said, no, that's the breed of the chicken. Oh, no, it's brown eggs are better. And I mean, they get into knockdown.
Look in the fight. Look in the fight.
and I always go, well, that's why marketing wins.
Yeah.
All these things that somebody's got to market in there. And that's probably where that.
Ray, you got anything?
No, we've had a few that have probably participated a little bit more than we wish they would have.
They're like, let me tell you about brisket.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
no, you're here to learn from us.
Yes. They jump in a little too much on that. They sit up on the front and bless their hearts, but once in a while, they need to let the instructors instruct. And before we go, one of the best things happened somewhere in here in all these camps early on, when Russell Regals was kind of the first guy in Regals Barbecue that came in and helped. And then he got John Brotherton involved and had others. And we were struggling because, again, we don't do this all the time. We teach meat science, we do that. But then we were trying to cook and teach and do that. And it was a struggle. And they came in one time and said, I'll tell you what, guys, let us cook, y'all teach. And you talking about letting everybody do their spiritual gift.
Yeah,
they did this daily. They did more in one day than I might do the rest of my lifetime. I don't think I'd ever do that. But we're the teachers, and so we're comfortable getting up in front of people, teaching, lecturing, taking all that stuff. So that's when I think the camps went to a higher level.
Yeah,
I think they went to the level that then Ray, Davey, and I, and our students, we could concentrate on working with people. Doing that, not like, hey, get out of my way, we've got to run and check the temperature or something.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Hey, John.
Yes.
John, before we finish up, let me again mention, in order to go to these camps, you have to join Foodways Texas. And that website is foodwaystexas.org.
Okay.
You have to be a member. They've got student membership for $25, individual membership for $75. They've got some household, nonprofit businesses. So go to foodwaystexas.org for joining and then getting registered for the camps, or get your bean.
And they'll do the lottery, yes.
And then the lottery is kind of set up. I don't know anything about the hunting, but I think it's like that. If you hadn't gone for a length of time, or, didn't get in, you get more chances in it. And one of the reasons why Camp Brisket has got to be so large, we ended up having some of these. If you've waited 5 years and hadn't got in, you get in automatically. I mean, you still got to pay, but you get in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we were sitting out here with 200 people that fit that. And it's amazing how many people will say, how many of you have been waiting 5 years to get here?
They're raising their hand.
Hold up their hand. And, they'll be there with, dad and brothers and such. And then somebody will say, we're here, Dad didn't make it. We didn't. We just
it took too long, and unfortunately he passed before we come, but we're here in his memory.
That's
and so,
awesome.
But again, we don't have Kyle Field filled up. That takes away the personality of these things too. But Camp Brisket, we've been able to have more people because we don't do hands-on by the participants.
Yeah.
Barbecue summer camp, people season, people do stuff. We have groups of people, and that one is very restrictive on the number of people we can have.
Well,
also at Brisket Camp, we also we work with Weber. Weber has donated a number of our cookers, and we will actually show the people that you don't have to have this, multi-$1,000 rig to cook, that you can do it on these simple cookers. So again, we're catering to all types. You don't have to have the big rig. You can just be the backyard.
Drum cookers, kettle cookers, backyard, you get at Academy or Walmart or whatever. You can, that's how we all start. That's how we all start. And then you just get kind of spoiled and want more. But man, you guys have been fantastic. I've really enjoyed this. It's Camp Brisket, 2/3 of the 3 Brisketeers, Ray Riley and Jeff Savell. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you.
All right, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks and
All right. This has been the Bite Meat Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget, it's brought to you every week by Texas Star Grill Shop. Fantastic people over there. You guys have a great week, great weekend. I'm going to cook a brisket for our Auburn game now. I got inspired. And we'll talk to you next time.